What up, my freaks? Ruinous Insight here with another Total War Warhammer 2 random army composition battle. Now, this episode is going to be a part 2 to the previous episode where we randomed this Bretonnian army and were able to quickly destroy the Golden Order. Now, per comments, I will be playing the reverse of that same battle, now using the Imperial Army. Now, I think that the Imperial Army should be in a much worse position than the Bretonnian Army was, just by virtue of the sheer amount of cavalry that the enemy was able to bring, whereas we are much more reliant on ranged firepower and do not have a lot of melee to sort of keep the enemy back, so we will have to overcome that. Fortunately, we do have quite a bit of artillery, and I think we should be able to do it, especially as it is against the AI, but let us find out. Here we go, another cinematic battle time. Alrighty, here we go. This should be pretty interesting because it seems on the face of it the enemy army is considerably stronger just by virtue of the type of units that they have, but we have to remember that we do have some things going for us, which I will get into in a second. I first just want to quickly touch on the setup here and what we've done with the map. Now, looking at the map, immediately this spot comes to mind. Like, we could have definitely cheesed this battle. We could have definitely just used this thing as a sort of pseudo wall, forced the enemy to use all of their cav in the forest here and made them completely useless, and prevented them from going around us with this, but it felt a little bit unnecessary to me, and I thought it would be just a more fun and cool looking battle over here. Plus, I have a bit of a pet peeve with regards to fighting in the woods, as in I can't freaking stand it because I can't see what's going on, and I really like to watch the animations and stuff like that, so we just go with the regular battle on this clearing here, even if it isn't the most advantageous area. I think we can overcome it. Besides, over here we do have a small hill for at least some of our units to take advantage of, like our gunners, especially our hand gunners, will be able to fire down a little bit, our artillery being up on the hill, and then our cav being able to charge down from it. At least we get something there. I was hoping that you could actually walk into this water here, but apparently it's impassable, and it's unfortunate because these guys, the Nordland Mariners, are an aquatic unit, so they would have gotten the benefit from being there, but it's okay. I guess I'll mix it up in some of these episodes wherein I will use the terrain to incredible advantage sometimes, but not this time. We'll just go with what we have. Now, in terms of the setup, pretty simple. We don't have a lot of melee, but we do have 3 units out front. Our great swords are our main line, as well as an additional unit of spearmen in a sort of checkered formation, with the handgunners being able to fire through the gaps between those units, as you tend to like to do with the Imperials. A couple of units of crossbowmen and a hunter's unit all the way back here up on the hill, so that they can fire down on any of their cav as they approach. The Mariners are going to have to act as another melee line, unfortunately, but behind the Deliverance here, which is going to provide some cover fire as well as draw in any cav ideally. Now, over here in the wings in the forest, we have one of our 2 elite units, the Imperial Foot, hiding here, and I'm hoping what'll happen is that as the enemy tries to go around and charge us and attack the Nordland Mariners or our range units over here, that the Imperial Foot will sort of get in their way and just wreck face. We also have 3 units here in reserve, 3 of our elite units, or elite-ish units. The Knights of Moor and the Stubborn Bulls are both waiting to essentially countercharge any enemies that are able to break through our formation. We also have our unit of Altdorf Company of Honor, our elite legendary halberd infantry. They're essentially just going to wait here in case the enemy Pegasus Knights touch down and decides to hit our rocket artillery. Otherwise, our 3 units are together over here. Our 3 units of artillery are sitting together in a blob, which you generally don't want to do against giant piles of cav like the enemy has. But I did it in this particular case because we have a Huntsman General who can provide hail of fire buffs to this entire blob and increase that reload skill, as well as the war wagons, which have that ability that allows them to recharge ammunition if anybody nearby. So I think that's a nice little blob. Speaking of that blob is currently targeting the enemy artillery with the Hellstorm rockets. And the Hellstorm rockets obviously super amazing for cleaning up blobs of infantry like this. This would be the ideal place to fire them, but I felt like we really didn't want the Blessed Field Trebuchets on the field, and to a slightly lesser degree the regular field trebuchets, as they do quite a bit of damage. As we saw, I think they did the most damage for us when we used this Bretonnian army last time, so I definitely wanted those off the field. Anyway, that's about it for the setup. Let's watch the actual battle unfold. Looks like the enemy Pegasus Knights are going to charge a Deliverance here, which is not a good idea for a number of reasons. Yes, they could definitely hurt the Deliverance, which is already taking damage, but they will also take damage from the Steam Expulsion, or whatever the hell that ability is called, plus all the range that we've got going on over here. Mounted Yeomen, as well as even more Knights Errant, are moving in, but it looks like they all don't want a piece of this, with the Mounted Yeomen and the Knights Errant backing up. Fortunately, these Pegasus Knights are fairly fragile and will be taking shots from those Nordland Mariners, and I think they will go down fairly quickly. Otherwise, our artillery have now switched to firing on the enemy infantry blobs and should be able to deplete their numbers really quickly. Now, one of the things that we've really got going for this army is that we have a few ringers, a few hyper elite, hyper expensive units like the Deliverance over here, which is a hell of a tank. We have a Warrior Priest over here who can, I think, outfight the enemy Battle Pilgrims with the various abilities that he has, as well as the what's that ability called? Soulfire. Grand Soulfire is the super ability, as just regular Soulfire. And keep the great swords alive, plus buff them up with the battle prayers. We also have the freaking Templehof Luminarch, which it provides so much value to this particular army for two reasons. One, you can see that the enemy prophetess, the mage that they have, and I just want to point out that we don't have a mage to support us, which is, hurtful, just against RNGs is there. But the prophetess here, we can snipe with our Templehof Luminarch. We can see that she's dropped down in terms of her HP, and we will be continuing to snipe her until she's dead and trying to get that mage off the field so she doesn't do a crazy amount of damage. Just want to see that Templehof Luminarch fire again. Don't know if it'll hit, but I'm certainly hoping that it will. Here we go. Come on. I mean, what else are we going to watch while the enemy army just approaches over here? And it looks like a hit there. At least it looked like it to me. Let's see what your HP is at. Oh, and it actually brings her down. That was about full HP, or a half HP down to fully dead. Very, very nice. Templehof Luminarch paid for itself right there, essentially, taking the enemy, I keep wanting to say Admiral, damn it, off the field, General off the field, as well as removing their mage. On top of that, the Templehof Luminarch has the attached spell, which should be going down right here. 2 units of knights immediately trapped by that net of Amantok. Very, very high value. Once again, they can't charge into our relatively fragile lines of Free Company militia, and will now be taking damage from all of our armor-piercing handgunners, as well as our hunters, who are anti-large. Beautiful. Well done to the Templehof Luminarch, and definitely paid for itself already. Over here, we did have the Mounted Yeomen try to go around our units over here, and it looks like the Imperial Foot did manage to catch them and obliterate them, essentially, without taking any damage, so that worked out quite nicely. There is a Battle Pilgrim unit that is going to hit our Nordland Mariners, and unfortunately I don't think that the Free Company Militia will be able to beat them, but with the help of the Imperial Foot there, that should work out quite well. Otherwise, this side of the battlefield will also have enemies charging in, and we do have the Pegasus Knights, as well as the Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis and the Grail Knights, all the most powerful units that the enemy has, essentially going after this one poor unit of spears, which is unfortunate for us. However, we do have the Great Swords, who are going to be able to move in and hit these guys in the side. It's probably a good thing that these guys actually charged a weaker unit, a disposable unit, like these spearmen with shields, leaving the Great Swords unharmed, while the Stubborn Bulls, the Empire knights with great swords move around and try to hit these guys together with the great swords right there. I think that's a fairly decent use of those guys. In the meantime, we still have our Altdorf Company of Honor in reserve guarding these guys, our artillery, just by virtue of the fact that if we leave them alone, I guarantee they'll get charged by something. So yeah, I think it's pretty necessary to keep them in reserve. The Tempelhof Luminarch is still firing, and you can see how much damage it has already done to the enemy Lost Sun, the second freaking caster that the enemy army got. So at least we got a half caster in the form of the Tempelhof Luminarch, just to bring them down on top of being able to cast that net of Ammontok. The Deliverance is still doing a great job tanking out front here. Just some minor units in addition to this one unit of Knights of the Realm, but certainly worthwhile. And I guess the Imperial Foot are still sort of in reserve for now. So the battle is, it's still got time to go. Luminarch firing again. Looked like a miss. No, it was a hit on that Lost Sun. I think one more shot will bring him down if he doesn't just rout off the field. He's routing right now, but perhaps not shattered. Our range units are also basically untouched at this point and have been doing a great amount of damage. We can also see our artillery firing into this crater that already exists, forcing Knights Errant and Mounted Yeomen off the field. Very, very nice. And down goes the Soulfire. There are 3 units of Battle Pilgrims which are embroiled in a fight against our Greatswords, which are being kept alive. You can see all those buffs from that Shield of Faith and the Hammer of Sigmar on those Greatswords, which is really helping them out, and they are certainly racking up the kills. An enemy Knights Errant unit has decided to get off the field. We can see the Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis, which is a very effective unit, as we saw in the previous version of this battle where we played the Bretonians, have also dropped to below half HP after being pincered by the great swords and hit by some range, in addition to the Stubborn Bulls. Unfortunately, over here, the Stubborn Bulls did get trapped and are now fighting both Grail Knights and Pegasus Knights, which dish out a lot more damage than they do. After all, we have to remember that the Stubborn Bulls, while being a quote-unquote elite unit that we have, is still just an Empire Knights unit. They're not, Empire Knights are not very good. They never have been, even if they are a little bit better in this particular mod. Just going to sacrifice them to keep the Grail Knights off the field, essentially. The longer those guys are off the field, the stronger our position is, especially while we whittle down the rest of the army. Speaking about whittling down the rest of the army, the enemy has got their own legendary unit, the Hermit Knights, fighting our legendary unit. It's a clash of legends over here in the center while they try to bring down the Deliverance. But obviously we want to focus on killing the rest of the army and leaving the Hyper Elites alive, so that we can essentially focus down the Hyper Elites with a giant pile of units afterwards. We can see a lot of the enemy units are routing over here. All the peasant bowmen are off the field just by virtue of being wrecked by our artillery, and our artillery are now bombarding the field here around the Deliverance, just to try to damage this unit of Knights of the Realm and help out against those Battle Pilgrims. Probably getting a little bit of friendly fire into these Nordland Mariners, which have finally routed. But I'm actually fairly impressed with the Nordland Mariners. They've gotten a decent amount of kills. They've held the line, if not forever, for long enough that the Battle Pilgrims did not break through, and plus the Imperial Foot are now helping out with this, so I'm fairly happy with that. We are also now starting to reposition all of our handgunners to this portion of the battlefield, wherein we are going to use them to focus down both of the enemy Pegasus Knights as well as those Grail Knights. Gotta keep applying that armor piercing from those handgunners. It's absolutely critical. And here we go. The Pegasus Knights are coming back, but we are trying to focus them down with all of our range fire. Gonna get a few more volleys in there in a few seconds. And on top of that, while the Pegasus Knights are out there, we're also going to move our Tempelhof Luminarch. You can see that it is closing the distance here to apply our second use of Net of Ammontok on the Pegasus Knights while they're in the air, allowing all of our range units to focus them down and basically obliterate the unit. Both the handgunners and the crossbowmen over here, as well as the hunters moving in. Oh wait, that's another crossbowman. I don't know where the hunter unit is, but it's moving in as well. So fairly effective. There you can see the Pegasus Knights, and by the time that the Net of Ammontok is off, they're basically wavering and are ready to go. We've been leaving the Wardens of Montfort alone, the Mounted Human Archers, but even though they do apply poison, I mostly didn't feel like there was a time to focus them with anything else, like especially our handgunners and our crossbows. They were really busy. Now over here, the Grail Knights were trying to charge our handgunners to counter our attack on the Pegasus Knights, but we did immediately countercharge them with the Knights of Moor More, which we've been keeping in reserve this entire time. And also, I just gotta say, Knights of More is such a freaking cool looking unit. You gotta love these guys. It's an absolutely fantastic model. I really wish that they weren't an Empire Knights unit, just by virtue of how weak Empire Knights are in general, but their stats are pretty good. 47 and 49, plus 125 armor. I mean, with the buffs in the campaign, you could probably get that to incredibly strong. So yeah, I'm very happy with the Knights of More. Otherwise, this battle is getting close to being over. The enemy have lost so many units. You can see those Pegasus Knights dropping. We've now retargeted our artillery at the Wardens of Montfort, just because there really isn't anything else to target. The Hermit Knights are showing that they are quite effective here, despite the relatively large amount of fire going in against them, i.e. the Tempelhof Luminarch and this unit of Nordland Mariners with their armor piercing firing on them. They have nearly killed the Deliverance, which will mean we do need to get the Deliverance the hell out of there. The Imperial Foot over here have essentially been holding this flank, because once the Free Company militia had routed, all the enemy units that have come back have all been charging, and I'm once again very, very impressed with this unit. 79 kills, almost 80, and they've been holding the line beautifully. So well done to all of those. But at this point, the battle is just about in our hands. We can see the balance of power. We've lost about 400 units, whereas the enemy has lost nearly their entire army. Enemy troop count has dropped to 142 due to all the routing units, and I think the enemy army has actually routed with the exception of their Unbreakables. Grail Knights are about to go as well, being focused down by volley upon volley of handgunner hits, so they're out of the picture, and the Knights of More look like they carry the day. Yeah, we can see the Huntsman General is helping out with all this, as well as all the handgunners. The crossbowmen are actually targeting the Battle Pilgrims over here, just because the Battle Pilgrims have their backs to us, and they are once again unbreakable, so the crossbowmen can sort of shoot them, while the Imperial Foot don't really suffer as much damage by virtue of the fact that they are turned away, A, and B, they have a lot more armor than these guys do, so the crossbowmen can do their thing. Otherwise, we're now just going to get the Deliverance away. We could have had it fight to the death with the Hermits and explode, dealing more damage to them, but I feel like the Hermit Knights are so heavily damaged, or so heavily resistant, that there's probably no need to do that, as it would not do much damage in the first place. We're just going to back away and essentially focus them down with our various handgunners. Oh, Tempelhof Luminarch. Did it explode a couple of them there? Whatever it was, it looked very nice. The last unit on the field, Tempelhof Luminarch, is also just going to run away. I mean, there's no need to fight these units directly. They're too slow to catch us. Too bad that the legendary unit of the Bretonians is actually on foot over here. And now the warrior priest goes in to sort of show them who's boss, while the handgunners bring them down. Looks like there's going to be just a couple left. A soul fire goes down, and the battle should be just about over here. Last one on the field. And he's exploded. And there we go, just like that, it looks like we've got our victory. Oh, there, okay, fine. There's a couple Battle Pilgrims alive, 1 and 7. I'm sure they will go down fairly quickly, but it was a really nice battle. It was a really nice battle. I actually thought it went a little bit easier than it might have otherwise. I feel like the AI really didn't use its cav to the best effectiveness. They really should have tried to better break through our lines and take out all of our highly damaging range units. But once again, this is the AI. You can't really expect perfect gameplay from it. And if I did expect perfect gameplay from it, I might have employed the terrain a little bit better over here, because that would have been a high advantage. But I think this kill fight gave us a lovely sight to see, in addition to a fairly nice battle, so I think it worked out. Close victory, although I'm not sure I agree. We did take some damage, and in fact, let's see how we did. And how they did, I suppose. Now, immediately this stands out. 45,000 damage on the Hellstorm rocket battery. For those of you who watched the previous version of this, where we used the Bretonian army, I did remark that the Hellstorm rockets would be extremely dangerous. 45 and 25k damage on them. Fortunately, the AI was not able to use them very well in their battle, but we were certainly able to bring them to bear. And the mortars did a respectable 1100 as well, but they kept these guys topped up in terms of their ammunition. The Tempelhof Luminarch only dealing 12 damage, but taking out that Prophetess in what looked like 2 or maybe 3 shots and forcing that Lost Sun off the field, essentially, neither of which were able to deal any damage or probably provide much support with their spell. So I think, once again, that just made the Luminarch pay for itself, even if it weren't able to do all that damage that it did to various other units like the Hermit Knights and such. I'm also fairly impressed with the Warrior Priest. Didn't do a crazy amount of damage, but certainly helped hold the line and kept these guys fighting. These great swords did 13k and got 191 kills. Granted, most of those were peasants, but still fairly respectable. The Altdorf Company of Honor, 14,000 damage there, or not the Altdorf Company of Honor, sorry, the Imperial Foot. The Altdorf Company of Honor did nothing. They were in reserve that entire time, but at least they maintained essentially full HP and were able to be committed should we have needed. I really expected those Pegasus Knights to charge in and try to kill our artillery so that the Altdorf Company of Honor would be able to defend them, but hey, it didn't happen. But on the bright side, that allowed our artillery to keep firing. So either way, obviously all of the handgunners also did very respectable damage. 13, 10, 5, well, these are the militia. 13, 14, and 11 on the regular handgunners unit, and the crossbows did okay as well. Looks like the Steer River Patrol did better than any of the others. But anyway, a lovely battle. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did, and stay tuned for more random army battles or random composition battles. Don't forget to leave a like and comment for your friendly neighborhood heretic. All glory to the algorithm, and thanks for watching.